Hello, and a big welcome back to English for Your Day. I'm your host, Lily, and I'm so happy you're joining us for another episode designed to make your English learning journey easier and more effective. Today, we're talking about something that every English learner experiences at some point: challenges. Learning a new language is an amazing adventure, but it's not always easy. We all face difficulties along the way. But the good news is, these challenges are normal, and they can be overcome. To guide us through these common hurdles and offer some really helpful advice, I'm delighted to welcome back our favorite English language expert, Liam. Welcome back to the podcast, Liam.
Thanks so much, Lily. Always a pleasure to be here and talk about English learning. And you're right. Challenges are a natural part of the process. It's important for learners to know they're not alone in facing them.
Exactly. So, Liam, let's dive right in. What are some of the most common challenges you see beginner English learners facing?
Well, Lily, from my experience, there are several that come up frequently. One of the biggest is fear of making mistakes. Beginners are often so worried about being wrong that it stops them from speaking at all.
Oh, yes, the fear of mistakes. I think we've all been there, haven't we? Why is this such a common challenge, Liam?
I think it comes from a few places. Firstly, in many traditional learning environments, the way mistakes are often corrected can make learners feel self-conscious. Secondly, people naturally want to sound intelligent and capable, and making mistakes can feel like the opposite of that. But the truth is, mistakes are essential for learning.
Absolutely. Mistakes show we're trying and learning. So, what's your advice to learners who are afraid of making mistakes?
My top tip is to reframe mistakes as learning opportunities. Think of them as feedback, not failures. Every mistake you make is a chance to understand something better and improve. Also, focus on communication, not perfection. In real conversations, native speakers care more about understanding you than about perfect grammar. And remember, everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers, all the time.
That's so encouraging, Liam. Another challenge I hear about a lot is understanding fast native speakers. Beginners often feel overwhelmed by the speed of natural English speech.
Yes, this is a very common frustration. When you're starting out, native speech can sound like a jumble of words. The key here is to gradually expose yourself and practice active listening.
Gradual exposure? What does that mean in practice?
Start with listening to English at a slower pace. There are many online resources designed for learners, like podcasts and channels that speak clearly and at a slightly reduced speed. Listen to short segments repeatedly and don't try to understand everything at once. Instead, focus on catching key words and grasping the overall meaning. And practice active listening, which means really concentrating on what you're hearing, not just having English on in the background.
Active listening. Yes, that's a really important point. Any recommendations for learner-friendly listening resources?
Definitely. For podcasts, there are many specifically designed for English learners. You can easily find them by searching online for podcasts for English learners. On video platforms, many channels offer beginner lessons with slower, clearer speech. And even watching cartoons or children's shows in English can be helpful at the beginning since the language is usually simpler and spoken more slowly.
Excellent recommendations. Another challenge I think many beginners face is vocabulary building. It can feel like there are just so many words to learn.
Yes, absolutely. The English vocabulary is vast, and it can feel overwhelming. But the key is to focus on building a core vocabulary first. You don't need to learn every single word. Start with high-frequency words, the words that are used most commonly in everyday conversations. These words form the foundation of everyday communication, allowing you to understand and express yourself in most common situations.
How do learners know which words are high frequency?
You can easily find high-frequency English word lists online. Just search for high-frequency English word lists for beginners. Also, learn vocabulary in context. Instead of just memorizing lists of words in isolation, learn new words as you encounter them in reading or listening materials. And use digital flashcard systems to help you remember new words effectively over time. Many of these systems are available as apps or websites.
Digital flashcard systems. That sounds interesting. We should definitely do a whole episode on vocabulary building tools soon. Another challenge I hear about is grammar. English grammar can seem complicated and confusing, especially for learners from languages with very different grammatical structures.
Grammar can definitely feel intimidating. My advice is to focus on the most essential grammar points first. Beginners don't need to master every single grammar rule immediately. Start with the basics like verb tenses, present simple, past simple, future simple, basic sentence structure, and common prepositions.
So, focus on the grammar that's most important for basic communication.
Exactly. Don't get too caught up in overly complex grammar rules at the beginning. Use grammar textbooks or online resources designed for beginners. Practice grammar actively by doing exercises, writing simple sentences, and trying to use new grammar points in your spoken English. And remember, grammar is just a tool for communication, not an end in itself. The goal is to use grammar to express yourself clearly, not to achieve perfect grammatical accuracy from day one.
That's a really helpful perspective on grammar. Another challenge that's perhaps more emotional is lack of motivation. Learning a language takes time and effort, and it's easy to lose motivation along the way.
Motivation is key, and it's normal for motivation to go up and down. To stay motivated, set realistic goals and break down your learning into smaller, achievable steps. Don't try to learn everything overnight. Celebrate small successes. Every new word you learn, every conversation you have, is a win. Find ways to make learning fun and engaging. Learn English through your hobbies. If you love cooking, watch English cooking videos. If you love music, listen to English songs and podcasts. And connect with other learners. Join online communities or language exchange groups to share your journey and support each other.
Connecting with other learners. That's such a great idea. Learning together can make a big difference. And finally, Liam, what about pronunciation? Many learners worry about their pronunciation and feeling embarrassed to speak because of their accent.
Pronunciation is important for clear communication, but it's also important to be patient with yourself. Aim for clear pronunciation, not a perfect native accent. A slight accent is perfectly fine, even charming. Focus on the most important sounds for understanding, especially vowel and consonant sounds that differ greatly from your native language.
How can learners improve their pronunciation practically?
Listen to native speakers and pay attention to their pronunciation. Try recording yourself speaking English and compare it to native speakers. There are many online tools and apps that can help with pronunciation practice. Remember to focus on one sound or word at a time and don't try to change your entire accent overnight. And don't forget, don't be afraid to speak. The more you speak, the more your pronunciation will naturally improve over time.
Liam, these are such valuable insights and so practical. To summarize for our listeners, what are your top 3 takeaways for overcoming English learning challenges?
Okay, here are my top 3 takeaways. Embrace mistakes. See mistakes as learning opportunities, not failures. Focus on communication over perfection. Be patient and persistent. Learning English takes time. Set realistic goals. Celebrate small wins. And keep practicing consistently, even when it feels challenging. Make it enjoyable. Find ways to learn English that are fun and relevant to your interests. Connect with other learners for support and motivation.
Fantastic. Wonderful advice, Liam. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and encouragement with us today on English for Your Day, Liam. I know our listeners will find this episode incredibly helpful.
My pleasure, Lily. It's been great to be here. And to all the learners listening, you can definitely do it. Keep going and don't give up.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning into English for Your Day. We hope this episode has given you some practical strategies and motivation to overcome your English learning challenges. Remember, even every small step you take is progress. You can find a transcript of this episode in the video description. See you next time for more tips and encouragement on English for Your Day.